So you guys really wanted, I guess, a video about FNF, which is kind of weird. I don't know. I never really thought you guys would be interested in it. So yeah, I play a ton of rhythm games. I play a shit ton of them. I love rhythm games, and obviously still do. I go to like an arcade near my college all the time, and I play Sound Voltex. But something I've like always kind of asked myself is like, FNF actually a good rhythm game? Because I always see a lot of people debate it. It's bad. It's great. And you know, I've been kind of on the fence about it. I have made fun of it before, and I've also made like, you know, I guess compliments about it before as well. And you know, I act like its biggest hater and its biggest fan at the same time. And I want to actually give like my personal opinion. Like about if it's a good rhythm game or not, like, and I'll be grading it and things like that. I'll be maybe covering modding. I don't really know, probably not. Maybe in another video, because that's a whole different rabbit hole. And I'd like to also say that this is purely my opinion, and it shouldn't be the objective view. There are a multitude of perspectives, and you know, if you want to make some kind of, I guess, like conclusion about if it's a good game or not, you should absolutely just play the game for yourself, or at least bare minimum look at other people's videos and see what they have to say as well. I just hope that this video doesn't come across as negative or judgmental as well. This game is still in like its very early stages, despite the fact that it's been in the works for so long, and I'm just judging it as of like what it's at right now. And I know that it's going to get way better over time, and I know it's going to get a lot cooler. They're going to add more things and things like that. So right now, just know that this is what I think of it right now compared to the other rhythm games that are out there. And honestly, I just really wanted to talk about a rhythm game, and not one with a wildly complicated story that I'd messed up so bad that I'm actually scared of returning to it because I'd never figured it out. And I just honestly hope you guys enjoy this one, and let's talk about it. Alright, so how am I going to grade the game? I actually asked a lot of people about what they think makes a rhythm game important, and I kind of came to the conclusion of what I'll be grading on. Style, gameplay, charting, song selection, and then maybe like like a bonus point section, like, you know, bonus stars from Mario Party, for the things that I just like that aren't really in those categories. These things I'll explain mostly when it comes to, like, I'll go deeper into each, I guess, category when the time comes around, but these are just what I consider critical for a rhythm game. Each section will be graded out of 10, and I'll be totaling it up near the end. Now just know, I grade things differently. If I rate something a 5 out of 10, that is not an F, that's a C. It's middle. It's in the middle. I see it as mediocre. And I don't believe that I don't like rating things on like a 70, like a 100-point scale, kind of like the traditional American style. I don't like doing that when it comes to these sorts of things. So I'll be grading it kind of in a more like equal way, if you want to put it like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind, and let's talk about it. Let's start with style, which is the strongest thing in FNF, undoubtedly. Style is an important thing when it comes to rhythm games, and honestly, it's something that not a lot of people really tend to think about. The aesthetic of a game, though, is very important. It plays a large part in the visuals of the game. This can be, you know, characters, UI designs, anything really that just plays into the visual aspect of the game. Games such as like Vivid Stasis, you know, are an easy 10 for this, you know, unique art style, unique visuals as a whole, everything. It just looks great. Or, you know, take Sound Voltex techie and futuristic theme, also like a 9 or a 10. It should be noted though that games tend that like, you know, Eterna and Osu, these games tend to have less style. Those games tend to have less style because they are more focused on heavily focused on gameplay. And just keep that in mind, I guess, if you ever look at other rhythm games and are like, oh, this doesn't have style, does that mean it's bad? Not necessarily, because those games aren't meant to have it. But I consider FNF a game to have style as one of its key aspects. So the style of FNF, I think, is incredibly powerful, and it's obviously a love letter to DDR and PIU. Flashy colors, creative characters, and that like tend to reference the old internet as well. You know, you have Pico Newgrounds, you have a unique art style, this Newgroundsy feel. Everything about this game, I think, has a very strong style. Honestly, I think the screen select, like the select screen, where you choose like the free play songs alone, I think that already looks great. But I will admit, I wish it did kind of tell me the different difficulties for a song, kind of like how DDR and Sound Voltex do it. They have like a little bar on the side that'll tell you things like that. And I also think that the characters are just so poppy and so creatively made. This is an easy 10. It's hard to really give it anything else. I think it's incredibly unique, creative, and indistinguishable from any other rhythm game, making a perfectly like stylistic game with strong visuals. Now on to gameplay, which is definitely a weaker part of FNF. A gameplay of a rhythm game is incredibly important, and there are like so many defining aspects of everything, and there are multiple components. For example, timing window / judge and responsiveness. With a rhythm game, hitting notes at different times yields different rewards. The closer you get to hitting things on the rhythm, or I guess like when it reaches a bar or like where it's supposed to go, you get a higher, I guess, reward, you could say. And the more points you get, I guess, in FNF. These are called timing windows and tend to change per game. For example, competitive and simplistic games such as Osu, Eterna, and Beatmania and DDR tend to have tighter windows due to their simplistic nature, and games like Sound Voltex, for example, or like, I don't know, friggin' Beat Diver have wider timing windows because they are more complex and have a lot more things going on. The reason is again, they have more gimmicks and complexity, you know, and that's kind of their way of compensating for all the complexity, saying, okay, we'll give you a little more time to react to certain things because we know it can be hard. So that's how they, I guess, compensate. Timing windows are pretty tight for those games, and for FNF it's different. I'll talk more about that later. Another thing is actually gimmicks, and gimmicks allow for you to like stand out as a rhythm game, and what separates you from the rest. You know, Osu and Eterna and DDR don't really need it because they're oriented to the simplicity, and that's their, I guess, gimmick, you could say. Simplicity and pure skill because they have insanely tight windows for timing. And then you have games like, you know, Waka Reverse, you know, the anal prolapse version, My Beat Diver, Archaea, Shooting Them, Sound Voltex, all of these different games, like, are, oh, not to mention, like, the freaking dancing one, Dance Rush, that one's insane. These all have unique gimmicks so they can retain different kinds of players who enjoy different, I guess, feels of rhythm games. It's very hard to, once you really play them, though, I think you get a really, like, good idea of what it is, you know? Or, you know, Not ITG, for example, a game focused around mod charting, and it's a game that I absolutely love. In fact, the guy who made a bunch of stuff for Not ITG, Taro4012, worked on a bunch of stuff for the FNF modding scene, I guess, and made, I guess, Lua compatibility for one of the engines. I forgot what it was. And the final thing I wanted to talk about is a high skill cap. Players who love rhythm games will always want to get better and better and better and better, and usually get as high as they can go. And being able to, I guess, like, it's something that you can really feel. You can really feel improvement. Almost every rhythm game knows this. And they tend to usually have a very high skill cap. You know, you can change the judgment. They have very difficult charts. I'll talk more about charting later, obviously. They have a lot of songs that have very high difficulties. The difficulties get pretty high up there. So yeah, and this allows for a lot of growth as a player. So how does FNF do with regards to gameplay? Well, let's start with timing windows. And the timing windows for FNF are extremely wide. Extremely wide. And it almost feels like impossible to, like, fail, and you can't change the, I guess, timing windows like you can for DDR, and so it's impossible to fail. It feels like I can never fail, and this would be fine if there was a lot more to worry about, like, you know, lasers and Sound Voltex or something like that, but there isn't. It's very simple, and it's not a bad thing to be simple. It just feels very easy because the windows are so wide, and it just kind of feels boring. Like, I can easily get a 99 on most of these songs, so I can easily get high scores, and it doesn't really feel challenging at all. And I know for newer players it can be more lenient, but sometimes I view it as, and I've noticed this as well, I had a friend who just started playing Osu instead of trying games like FNF, and they got better a lot faster because they were able to adjust to these harder times. And so I will admit, another thing I noticed is that like, I don't know if it's just me, but like my notes wouldn't register properly at times, and I would just randomly miss things even though I know I'd hit them. So maybe I'm just going crazy, so I don't know, but, you know, I played Osu right after, so my keyboard was fine, and it was fine. You know, as I mentioned, no gimmicks, and so there doesn't really need to be anything. It just feels a lot less complex. And so finally I wanted to talk about skill cap, and for the base game, it's pretty low. Even when playing on the hardest possible songs, I think it's Satan Panties on, like, on the highest difficulty night, and honestly, compared to most games, it's extremely easy. It's you know, and the only hard part I struggled with was just adjusting to slower scroll speeds and using arrow notes because I use circles. And players who want to improve will just need to go play Osu or Eterna, or go, like, play more modded charts. And players who are going to play those harder games like Osu and Eterna are going to get a rude awakening. And with this game, players in general will improve at slower rates because the difficulty, I noticed, is kind of gradual. 14's the highest difficulty so far, has been very easy. It didn't do too much. And I will admit, you know, if, you know, it's fine to have a lot of difficulties. I know PIU has a bunch, but right now it's very gradual, and I haven't seen much change between, like, a lot of them. You know, Sound Voltex has a very high jump between each one, and that's because you're meant to really master a difficulty and then go to the next one. But for this one, it's just very easy. I felt like you could not grow a lot if you played this only. And overall, you kind of just got what I was saying. And honestly, if I really had to rate this, it'd be a 4. And again, that's like below average. That's not a massive fail. And it's not even because it's bad. It's just really easy, and, you know, had hiccups, and it doesn't really allow for player growth. And I feel like that's going to be a problem if you ever really want to get good at these kinds of games and you just like playing FNF. And you know, again, beginner rhythm game, but, you know, I was just thinking, like, even beginner rhythm games have, like, stronger gameplays overall, like Vivid Stasis or Tune At Them. Those are very beginner friendly, and those have very strong gameplays and feel good to play and feel at least a little more challenging usually. Again, this is also coming from someone who plays a ton of Osu and a ton of Sound Voltex, 2 very difficult rhythm games, so I could see things completely different, and I could just be completely wrong. Just keep that in mind. Now onto charting. Now charting tends to be another brutally important part of a rhythm game. You know, you can have great mechanics, but if your charts suck, if it feels awful to play like the actual song, well then it just turns you off. And so, you know, as you get better, the charting gets more complicated, etc. And I won't really talk too much about the terms of charting unless they come up. And there are a ton, and again, very technical and mechanical. If you aren't familiar with them, it gets very overwhelming. But if you are interested, just search up OSU charting terms. You'll find plenty of results, and you know. But if you aren't familiar, it'll be a little hard to get, but you can at least get the idea. So, you know, most games nail charting. Games like OSU, which is more community-driven, Samboltex, DDR, etc. There are rarely games that I see where the charting feels bad or is hated, unless like there's maybe like 1 or 2 songs I can think of in like OSU and Samboltex. Honestly, if I really had to say it, charting kind of directly ties with higher skill cap, obviously. Harder songs mean harder chartings, and means that more improvement and higher skill cap. And so, you know, I already talked about it, but I won't talk too much about it. You get the idea, though. But the charting in this game is not too bad. It's just mostly just something called streams, which is basically just like staircasing patterns. It's a lot of those. You know, I can't really explain it. It's a lot of streams, though, and it feels very simple. I rarely ever saw any jumps or like double notes come up. And I will admit, you know, the charting is inspired by DDR, which is why you don't see things like super dense streaming or super crazy things, or like chord streams, you know, where they have 3 because you normally only have like 2 feet and you have 4 fingers in this game. You get what I'm saying. It's based off like, it's like if you were playing actual DDR just with a keyboard. But even then, you know, I know that songs, you know, in DDR tend to have a lot more variety. If you ever look at games, if you ever look at like Over the Period or Possession, those games, songs have like insane like changes in their, I guess, charting. And this game, I feel like didn't have those kinds of differences. And you might also say, you know, oh, the charting felt easy because normally you're supposed to play it on an actual Dance pad. But again, games like friggin' songs like Over the Period and Possession are a pain in the ass to play because they have pauses and stuff, but not even the pauses, it's just hard to play in general. And I feel like, honestly, the charting for me with FNF would probably just get a 5, as it wasn't bad, it was just nothing memorable. I will take that back. I did play like one Spooky Kids song that had some like anchors, I think it was. I can't really remember, like Anchors or Running Man. But it wasn't anything memorable. It just lacked a lot of variety and stuck with simple streams, and maybe occasionally did some slightly different things. It wasn't anything too revolutionary. Alright, so bonus points and song selection. I feel like the song selection is pretty easy. I feel like the game is definitely stronger here. While it does not have like an insane amounts of songs, kind of like, you know, Pump It Up or all the other mainstream games, the ones they have are, you know, unique and memorable, and there isn't much for me to complain about here. I just kind of got tired of hearing BF's voice and things like that, but I don't think the music is necessarily bad. Of course, there will be more songs in the future. I just feel like the ones here are honestly fine. They're nothing crazy or nothing like insane, and there's not a lot again, but I feel like the ones they have are at least fine, and it probably gets like a 6. You know, it's small but memorable. On to bonus points. I feel like, you know, leaving FNF at a 25 would be kind of a harsh move, so I did want to award bonus points because there were things that I did actually like. You know, I find the story and cutscenes and animation cool. Again, characters are great, they animate the characters great. The ability to mod it, its open source capabilities are absolutely amazing. You can do a ton with it, and the game is 100% free. It isn't some gacha like game like Pro Sekai or anything like that. However, I wish I could customize things like scroll speed and, you know, height and width, which was, you know, something I do use. But, you know, all in all, I would say maybe, you know, 2 bonus points for these, like, small things that I really just think are something that should be recognized, and which would kind of be like a C+ in my book, a 27 out of 40, because I am grading it, again, assuming 20 is, like, the middle ground. You know, and also something really interesting is that, like, this community is, like, basically brand new, and it's a lot of people who are not familiar with rhythm games, so they'll see, like, a mod chart, and it's like, oh, this, or no, it'd be like not ITG players are like, oh, I've seen this one before, and then like the freaking FNF players are like, what do you mean it's brand new? What I'm more so talking about is like not ITG has had mod charts for ages, and it's just kind of funny to see like people just discover them for the first time. But you know, it's not even a bad thing because it's people getting introduced to this new thing, and I think that's also a good thing in a way. As I conclude this video, I would like to say I know it kind of sounded like at a certain point I kind of ragged on FNF for not being as strong gameplay-wise or, you know, in charting-wise, but I still think it's a great game. You know, the gameplay and overall charting and difficulty, I know, will definitely get better as all games do. You know, this is still a game that is taking a lot of time to make. You know, this is a tiny team making this, not huge devs who know the ins and outs of rhythm games like Samboltex and DDR and things like that, and so I know that should definitely be taken into account, and this is just looking at it from purely, like, objective views. honestly, if I really had to grade it, I'd give it like a 39 or maybe a 38 because the passion from the devs is absolutely immaculate. I think they have so much love for this game, and I think they have so much passion for things, and I think that should absolutely be recognized. It's clear they care a lot about what they're doing, and I think honestly, if I were to like add that, yeah, 38 out of 38, because yeah, they just love their game, and I can tell. And you guys should absolutely play the game, I think, if you haven't already played it, and make your own opinion as well, and you know, support the game if you guys want. And you know, I just hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys next time.